Hey everyone, welcome to our BSSM Alumni call tonight. Good to see you guys. I'm excited. I recognize most of you. A couple of people look new. So if I haven't met you yet, my name is Chris Frost. I lead the alumni group for Canada, and we're excited to have Beau Maddox with us tonight from Upper Room. I forgot to ask you, Beau, where you're from originally in Canada, but we'll hear that in a. Oh, go ahead.
Beau is actually from Texas originally, right, Beau?
No, you're from Texas originally.
I'm not Canadian. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
You're from Nashville originally. Okay. There you go. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're good.
And I just wanted to share with you guys real quick. You know, we've been doing these calls. I had a first live alumni meeting since COVID started this past weekend. Gina was actually there, and we had, was there 8 or 9 of us? I think. Is that right, Gina? I think 8 or 9 people in Edmonton, which has been cool. I'm curious, and something maybe we can talk about in the breakout rooms or just as a group after. You know, we hear about revival happening in the U.S. and what God's doing in the U.S. We're experiencing some revival happening in Edmonton, which has been awesome. I know Gina was there on Friday and Saturday night. Kath, were you there either night, Kath? Were you there? No. Okay. But people getting healed. There was a guy that gave a testimony about how he was actually planning to commit suicide that day and felt like he should come to the meeting that night and got totally delivered and set free and gave his life to Jesus. So that was really awesome. Some people, I shared a testimony on our page of people that had lost a baby and struggling with infertility, and now she's pregnant. And that Saturday night, like the church holds 350, but there was probably 450 people there. So it was like floor space was limited. So yeah, I just wanted to share and encourage you. And if you're ever in Edmonton, we would love to see you there. I don't know, sorry, Jesus told me not to say that anymore, but I don't know how this happened, but I'm also the location pastor for this church too. So yeah, if it's something God's doing in Canada, but we'd love to hear later what else God is doing across Canada, because I think there's revival springing up all over the place. So I'm going to turn it over to John, and he's going to introduce Beau. So go for it, John.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Really excited to have my friend Beau Maddox on the call tonight. He is from Upper Room, and he's also a BSM alumni. We were in the same revival group. We had Dave Harvey. I think it was his first year as an RGP that year. And so, Beau, I think you went through the full 3 years, right?
I did 2 years of school. I volunteered in third year.
Okay.
So I didn't actually do the internship, but I did volunteer for an RGP that year. Elizabeth
Cool.
King. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so I got to know Beau a little bit and then kind of see him. And I was just saying, when I went to visit, he was working at Starbucks as well while I was in school. And then it was just a couple of years later, I was kind of following Upper Room, and then I saw this guy who looked a lot like Beau, who is working in the coffee shop on one of these promo videos for Upper Room. And then a little while later, I see he's leading worship, and so I ended up trading messages probably about a year ago, and just to say, hey, it's so cool to see what God's doing in you. And I'm kind of I'm a loyal follower. I watch a lot Wednesdays in particular, because I see Beau's usually leading the Wednesday sets at Upper Room. And so anyhow, that connection led to Beau agreeing to share on this call, and just wanted to hear a bit about his journey, post BSSM and what God's been doing, and, just be an encouragement to us Canadians. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Beau, and you go for it, man. Thanks so much for coming tonight.
Oh yeah, it's an honor to be here. Like he said, my name is Beau Maddox. I was in Reading from 2012 to 2016. And I thought it'd be cool just to share a little bit with my journey with just like what has happened since leaving BSSM, and kind of just as an encouragement to people, because I know we're following the Lord, following his voice sometimes it's just so bizarre. But there's a Proverbs that I love that has been just kind of an anchor for my life. But it says, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. And so as I just share a little bit of some parts of my story over the last, what's 2016, wow, 6 years now, since leaving Reading. I hope that encourages you, and I'm super down to answer any questions you guys might have in a little bit, but I'm just going to start off and pray really quick. Lord, we thank you for your presence. We thank you that you inhabit the praises of your people. And sometimes it only takes a thank you, Lord. And just in that moment, we get to be close to you. Lord, thank you that you are the great high priest who made a way once and for all for us in this moment, wherever we are. Lord, you are there. So I thank you, Lord, for this group of BSSM alumni, these Canadians, my Canadian brothers and sisters. I'm not from Canada, but I bless Canada. Lord, thank you so much for this time. Amen. Yeah, so a little bit about why I left Reading. I was a part of the leadership team for Tribe, which was the young adults team. I got to do that for my last 2 years there. And there was a night where I showed up to Tribe and it just started feeling really nostalgic. It was this weird feeling of like, this feels like a past season. And I think that moment, I felt like the Lord was saying like, it's time to go, which was really strange because it actually wasn't on my radar to leave Reading. I was like, I was down to stay in Reading. I was down to live in that small town in the mountains with a bunch of people who love Jesus. Like that sounded really nice. I could walk to Trader Joe's. I mean, come on. But I left Reading with a group of 9 people. We moved to Nashville because the Lord put it on our heart to start kind of like a worship night type, like United Pursuit type situation where it like wasn't a church. It was just a place for people to gather and worship like once a month. Pretty low key was the like original intention for what we were doing, but we just wanted to like have something like that in Nashville. I'm from Nashville and have a big heart for it. It's like Music City or whatever. And there's been a lot of prophetic words about it being worship city. And I wanted to just come and bring a little bit of just like authentic, raw worship to Nashville. So me and a couple of friends, we all moved out there kind of with the plan to start this thing. And we did, we had some gatherings and they were great. But it was really interesting. The Lord ended up calling all of us to different churches. Like we weren't really connected. It was a very like disconnected team that had moved somewhere to do something together, if that makes sense. And it was just really interesting because we all were like, this is weird. Like we're not actually doing what we thought like we set out to do, but we're also following the Lord. So it's like weird. And anyway, in that season, it was my first time leading something. I was leading that and I was kind of doing like a part-time worship pastor job. And then I was also managing a coffee shop for the first time. So every role I was in that season, I was in charge of. And it was my first season like that. And I just got to this point where I was like, I just need a break. I need to just go be somewhere where when I walk in the room, people don't have 18 questions for me. Cause that's kind of what it felt like in that season. Like every day I was like in charge of everything that I was doing. So it was just a lot for me at that time. And so I went to Upper Room because a little bit of a backstory. Before I went to Bethel, I went to a ministry school called Christ for the Nations Institute in Dallas. And I had like people like Elissa Smith and Joel Figueroa and Eniola Abioye, like they're all friends of mine. We all did CFNI together. And so I love all of them dearly. And I was like, I'm going to go to Dallas. Like they've all been a part of this like prayer room. I'm just going to go and like receive or whatever. And my first night that I was there, like the Lord was just like, this is home. And the whole time I was there, like the pastors and like the elders were like coming and they were like, hey, like we know who you are. Like we really feel like you're supposed to be here. And yeah, you're moving here, aren't you? Like they just knew. They're like, the Lord's calling you here. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Like I just got here. Like I need a second to process this. I literally just told 9 people to uproot their lives and move to Nashville like 9 months prior. So it was just strange. But I ended up praying about it and the Lord just speaking to me really clearly about moving to Upper Room. And one of the cool things that really sticks out to me is the night that I heard the Lord speak to me, I heard him say, your songs are for this house. And I was just like, interesting. So a little bit about me, I'm a worship leader, songwriter. And I had been doing that before, but I mean, it was super hidden. No one knew who I was. I didn't really lead a ton. I did lead in second year while I was at BSSM. But besides that, I was pretty hidden. No one really knew. No one knew who I was. No one knew that I did any of those things really. And fast forward to the Lord calling me to upper room and him saying, like, your songs are for this house. I had no idea what that meant and what that would end up meaning now. Like fast forward 5 years, and like I've been able to travel with upper room and do a lot of songwriting for upper room. There's a couple of songs that I've been a part of writing, and yeah, so it's just been really cool. Like there's been a lot of dreams fulfilled in following him here, but it was just such a strange journey. So I had to go back to Nashville and tell all my friends that had moved to Nashville, hey, I'm moving to Dallas. The Lord wants me to be at upper room. And so they all handled it really well. And then I came here. But one thing I want to share a little bit about my journey being at upper room is when I was at Bethel, I was teased a lot. And I don't mean like bullied. I mean, I had a lot of things, and this is nothing against Bethel. I have like zero. There's nothing. There's no tea there. I just it was just situational. There's a lot of people who really believed in me and wanted the best for me. And so they would say something like, hey, we want you to come do this. Like, we want you to come be a part of this thing, or, like start leading worship, be a part of Bethel music. Like there was all of these little things that had been like kind of said, like, we want you to be a part of this, but there was never actually an invitation. And so there was just like a lot of disappointment and hurt, I think, because I felt like I was being told one thing and then nothing was happening. And it wasn't until I moved to upper room that I realized, like, the Lord wanted me here. Like, this is where he wanted me. He didn't want me to be at Bethel. And people saw something on my life and they wanted to do something about it, but they didn't. Like, there was never a yes because there wasn't supposed to be. And so I ended up being at upper room. And like one thing that I just adore about the house that I'm serving is there's like really just ministry to the Lord. It's like, period. Like what are we about is ministering to the Lord's heart morning, noon, and night. Like that's what we do, and that's who we are. It's it can be messy sometimes, but it's so beautiful to be a part of a house that has such like a pointed like message, like this is who we are and this is what we're doing. So anyway, I say all that to say, like, things don't always happen the way that we think they will, but the Lord like always will work it out. And one thing that I really love is, like, I feel like in my journey with having a lot of disappointments, because being in a highly prophetic culture, there's a lot of hope and a lot of faith, but there's not a lot of preparation for what happens when things don't happen, or like preparation for how do I actually manage disappointment. And I'm not talking, this is not me saying anything about Bethel. I'm saying this is like kind of across the board. This can happen in highly prophetic cultures, as you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's so exciting. And it's like, yeah, I'm like, we all like co-sign so hard because I mean, it resonates with me. Like I know Jesus, and I know that he has the best for me, and I know his voice, and I know what kind of hope comes when he speaks, and what kind of things just like fill me when I get those words from the Lord. They're amazing, and I love them and never will stop loving them. I just think that the tension that we struggle in sometimes is that we don't know how to actually handle disappointment when it comes, and we don't actually know, we actually don't think it's God. We don't actually believe that it's him. It's like we always are like, it's warfare, it's like my destiny is gonna happen. And I love that. I think faith moves the heart of God. Like we have biblical like proof that faith moves the heart of God. Hebrews 11, that's where it's at. And but like I don't know, I think there's been this crazy journey, because even when I got to upper room, there was a lot, I went through a lot. There was a lot of people who misunderstood me, did not understand me at all, thought that I was really prideful, thought that I was really like too confident. Because I mean, Bethel is very like confidence driven, like like know who you are, you're a son, like that kind of thing. Upper room is so humble, and so like a lot of the leadership is so like they're not used to that, like I know who I am type personality. And so it just took them a while. And so I had some years of actual, like, even deeper disappointments because things were happening based off of misunderstandings of who I am, just because, like, it's just two different cultures. And I think, like, there was a time where there was something that I was told couldn't happen, that I wasn't, like, gonna be a part of, because they thought that I was prideful. And all of this has been completely restored, and I have beautiful relationship with my leaders, so I don't mind sharing this. But I learned something really deep in a season where a choice was made about me based off of a characteristic they thought was true of me, which they don't believe that anymore, just because of, like, deeper relationship and stuff like that. But in that season, I was really heartbroken. Like, I'm not going to go into full details, but I was heartbroken. And I think the thing that was heartbreaking the most about it was not feeling known, and not feeling like my heart was understood. Especially, like, it had to do with worship, and it was, like, in the area that I feel the most, like, on fire for, and the most, like, my heart is so invested in, or whatever. And anyway, so it was, like, this really deep disappointment. There was layers of, like, pain from past seasons and stuff like that. And I felt like the Lord was like, I want you to be present. I want you to, like, to really own the season, own the hurt, like, I want to teach you something about my nature in this. And I think in that, the Lord just really spoke to me about entitlement, and how there's no entitlement in Jesus. If you look at the life of Jesus, there's no entitlement in him. And I think sometimes we start to believe, like, well, if I'm faithful, if I do this thing well, and if I'm, if I'm good, then I'm going to see his goodness. There's almost like this conditional thing that I think subconsciously we start agreeing with, because that's what we've been taught, or we've heard, like, if you're faithful with the few, God will give you the many. But the problem is when the faithfulness with the few is, the motive behind it is actually to get the many. And I think that the Lord just started really teaching me, like, about, like, getting low, and just, like, realizing, like, he's there. Like, as much as the Lord is there in promotion, he's there when you're misunderstood and not known. Like, he actually is the great, like, he's the only one who can sympathize with all of that. And one thing I love about Jesus is he never has to prove his power. He never has to prove his lordship. He just is, but he does it with such humility and such kindness, and there's no, like, ill motive in him. And so one of the things that I burn for the most is purity in worship. Like, in the worship movement, like, I just want there to be more purity. I don't want it to be about us. I don't want it to be about our songs. Like, those things are all great, but, like, the most important thing is that he gets what he's worth. And I think that in the church, it's like we idolize ministry opportunities and all of these things. And I'm like, man, the only thing I want to idolize is him. Like, I don't want to be obsessed with seeing my destiny being fulfilled. I just want to be obsessed with him. And if any of that happens, then it's just an addition. It's just an addition to, like, this life. Like, like, I'm currently working at a coffee shop. Again, I've been in coffee for way too long. Like 12 years now, I think. And I've been in management for 6 years. I didn't think I would be here right now. And it's just fun. It's funny, like, the Lord but, like, he's providing for my family. He's providing, like, and, like, this is the best job I've had financially. And it's like, wow, like, it's not what I thought, but it's him. And I think that that's something that I've learned. I think if I could really sum up, like, a lot of what's happened in my heart over the last 6 years, I just feel him opening up my heart more and more and more. Like, my ways, the way that I think is not it. I'm not the standard. Like, I'm a very black and white person. And so it's easy for me to think, like, I think rightly. I think things are either right or wrong. And I think there's just a place in intimacy with God where it's like, okay, actually, what do you think? What's on your heart? What do you want me to do? What's your idea? Like, I want to know what's your idea. And so I know I'm just, like, kind of blabbering, but I think I've really, really learned and grown a lot in just, like, the areas of humility. And I think it's something I actually thought that I carried. I don't think that I really was extremely prideful or anything like that. I've never like wanted to happen, you know, but there was a bit of this thing in my life where it's like, I really want to see like his promises like be fulfilled. Like there was like this almost obsession with like his promises in my life being fulfilled. And I think that there's a place in faith where that's important. I think that we never want to steer away from having faith for what he said. Like, I mean, there's been times in those really hard, disappointing times, I've had to just be like, all right, like this is what you've spoken over me, and I'm going to use this as like ammunition. Like what you've said in your word and what you've spoken over me, like maybe whether it's prophetically, like this is going to be like how I come against this disappointment and like believe that you are who you say you are and you're going to do what you said you'd do. But I think like I have seen the most breakthrough in my life when I just let go of that obsession, like letting go of like, I don't need to see it. If I don't see it, it's okay. Like you're actually enough. And I think that that is something I just want to see the church just get. Like he really is enough. He's really the most like satisfying thing that could ever be in our lives. Like it's not always about fulfillment. I think he came to fulfill. That's what he did. He came to fulfill everything already. There's no distance. Like we get to live in close proximity to him. And I think that, I don't know, I'm just learning that that's all I need, you know. And it's funny too, because it's like I'm saying this now, and but like, and I've seen a lot of dreams come true. I think even over the last couple of years, like I got to put out an EP that a lot of people have heard, and like songs that I've written are being sung all over, and I'm getting invited to do this or that. And it's like cool and exciting, but nothing excites me more than just being in his presence. Like I don't want to go anywhere if he's not there. And yeah, so that's really all I have to say. I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about that because yeah, it's just been my journey. So if anyone has any questions, go for it. Yeah,
that's really good, Beau. I appreciate you just like sharing your heart. And I didn't get to say this earlier, and I was thinking about it early on, like, oh, I wanted to mention this, but you tagged onto it right away, like throughout the call here. But you really, when I hear you lead worship, when I've heard you lead worship, intimacy is like the key piece I take away. Like you really carry that intimacy with the Lord. So anyhow, that was really cool for you to share on there. And I'm going to let people kind of put in different questions in the chat. Maybe I'll ask a question or two, or I'll have Chris maybe ask a question or two while we're waiting for some other questions to come in. And I think you go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're a smaller group. So if you have a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself, I think. Yeah. Cool. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah.
Go for it, Lisa.
I think I put this in the email, but Beau, what is your kind of most favorite way to spend that intimate time with God?
Oh, I love that question. I guess just like, so definitely at home, because it's the most consistent place we're together in, if that makes sense. Like me and my wife just we're renting a house, and we were in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so a huge priority for me getting a house is like, I want a guest room and I want a prayer room. And so I think like any place where I can have a shut door is really big for me. There's a book called Secrets of the Secret Place by Bob Sorge. It really, really changed my life. And there's a chapter in the book that says the secret of the closed door. And I don't know, there's just something about when I know that I'm alone with the Lord. It's like, I don't know, there's something about that is really special to me. And so when I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, I didn't have a place where I could shut the door, because I would get up early to spend time with the Lord, and my wife would still be in bed, and there was no other place like except like our living room. And so I don't know, it's just like it felt like open and it didn't feel intimate. So I really feel like I'm the type of person who like legitimately likes having a prayer closet, and just a space where I can worship freely and know that no one's watching except him. So, and then also I will say, I really love traveling. Like I really feel the Lord when I travel, whether I'm in the mountains or in like a city. Like I really love to travel, and I feel his presence there. So yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I've got a lot of creative types of friends, me too. How do you define the difference between excellence and perfectionism? Because somebody just asked me that question. So I thought I'd get an answer from you as I try to formulate the answer for myself.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a question. That's a loaded question, actually. I feel like I might be a little double-minded in how I feel about answering that. I think that you're saying like the difference between excellence and what was the other thing? Performance.
What's the difference
Perfection.
between pursuing excellence and pursuing perfectionism?
Gotcha. Well, actually, yeah, that's not too hard to answer. I feel like I think you can operate out of a spirit of excellence. And I think that is just like coming under like this thing of like, okay, like I want to do what I'm doing well because I see, like I have like a revelation of his worth. And so I want to pursue excellence. I don't want to just come empty-handed or come without any sort of preparedness. I think like in worship, an area where this can come up a lot, people will want to lead worship and have this like heart to lead worship, but they don't know how to do it practically. They need to be taught, and there's, I think, room for people to be better at developing creatives in the church. But like it can be offensive when someone's like, well, you don't know how to like do that, you're not as excellent in this thing yet. And I think that can be kind of like hurtful and bad. But I think it's okay to pursue excellence. I think pursuing perfectionism is interesting. I don't usually like to, I get kind of triggered around people who are like trying to be perfect all the time, you know. But I think that there is a place for excellence, but I think it's just not perfection. There's a place for excellence, but perfection is not the goal. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's the best answer. Sorry.
There's a question that came in on the chat about, I don't know if you can see it there, Beau. Speak more about ministering to the Lord's heart, the highs and lows of it. How should it be prioritized corporately?
Wow. That's a good question. For me, I feel like I think my life is the most important. Do I want to say a weapon? I don't know. My life is the way that I live my life, I think, is the most impactful way that I get to worship the Lord. And so I think that looks like working with excellence and maybe a job that I don't really want to be doing, or that looks like me loving my wife on a day that I don't feel like being like on, you know what I mean? And so I think that I think for me, this question, it starts in the way that I steward my life. Ministering to the Lord starts with how I steward my life and my time. And so for me, that means that I set aside time for him to spend in worship and prayer, just like in the secret place. And then also like that overflowing into the way that I do my day-to-day life. And then I think that if you can get that foundation strong, then you learn how to be present in that heart posture of ministering to the Lord, whether you are in a high or a low season. It's like, I mean, some of the most beautiful moments of worship I've had have been in moments of just like deep sorrow and deep pain. And like, what do you do when your best friend like loses their dad? Like, how do you, like those moments of just like pure like pain where it's like there's actually like this is a place that I can move the Lord's heart. And one thing that we teach at Upper Room is just like Thanksgiving is one of the best ways that we can minister to his heart. It's like we come into his presence with thanksgiving. And I think it just gets us out of ourselves. It gets us out of our situation, because no matter what type of season you're in, like you have something to be thankful for. You have breath in your lungs. You have a testimony. Just the fact that you are walking with him is already a testimony of his goodness. And so I think that thankfulness is huge, and just being present and like establishing that foundation of like, I'm going to move his heart. And so I'm going to worship, and I'm going to do like what I can to please him, not out of a place of performance, but just knowing that he's worthy of it. So yeah, I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And
and you said, how should it be? Oh, sorry. You said, how should it be prioritized corporately? I didn't answer that. Man, that's I think that it'll only be prioritized if it's prioritized. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it's one of those things where if you want that to be the culture of where you're at, I think that there just has to be like vision established that like, this is what we do. Like, this is when we come in, we're not coming to get from God, we're coming to give. And out of his kindness, he lavishes love, he lavishes gifts, he lavishes all the things. But like the first heart posture is we're coming to give him what he's worth. And another thing that I think that I don't fully like, I'm not on the side of like there only being one definition of worship, but there is a definition of worship that I've heard taught, is that worship is agreeing with who God is. And I think that it is really hard to stay in a funk when you really get yourself to a place of agreeing with who he is. Because I think that in that place of worship, when you're agreeing with like, you are my liberator, you are King of Kings, you are holy, you are healer, you are like Jehovah Rapha, like whatever, or like my provider, Jehovah Nisi, like any, like knowing his names and knowing his nature and getting to a place in worship where you're agreeing with who he is worship. And it's also faith. It's like knowing that ministering to his heart, like we can do that through faith as well. So, but I think corporately that's done from like leadership down. I think that you get your team to really buy into that vision, and then you keep just like going for it and trying to establish that as culture.
Thank
What were you
you.
going to say? I think I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say thank you for that. I have so many questions for you.
Oh yeah.
Well, another one is, how do you incorporate scripture into the ministering to the Lord? How do you, like, just creatively as a person, and then maybe, if there are any other creative like, or any other thoughts from other people from your reading and stuff?
Yeah, so like, I mean, one thing that's cool about like prayer sets and stuff like that is we do a lot with scripture. One thing that we're really big on is if a prayer leader is going to open up a set with a scripture, or anytime, like you'll see this if you ever watch Upper Room, like live streams or whatever, but whenever like worship leaders and singers, we have our Bibles with us. And anytime a prayer leader or a pastor or something wants to read from something and we're up there, we really like to read the passage instead of just like listening to it and getting it, just like it just brings unity to the team. And then we can all like, like let's say we're worshiping and we're just in a place of like just praise or adoration or whatever, and then a prayer leader starts talking about the faithfulness of God and is reading from like a Psalms or whatever about the faithfulness of God. We open it up to it, we're reading it, and it becomes real to us, like reading it and engaging with it becomes real to us. And then sometimes choruses will come out of that, like singers will sing a new song or an old song just to like bring unity around what we're getting revelation on. there's one thing that we I don't know who coined this. I don't know if this is an upper room thing, but we just call it mutual submission. It's like if a leader, whether it's a worship leader or a prayer leader, if I'm feeling the joy of the Lord, but my prayer leader is feeling something completely different, if we're both too stubborn to stay on what we're feeling, there will be no unity and no encounter because of that. Like we won't end up going anywhere corporately because no one decided to like give, you know? And so I think that just being really sensitive to the Holy Spirit, and when someone is feeling something, it's like laying down what you're feeling. Okay, like I get to lead with Larissa Miller. She's the prayer leader on the Wednesday set. And like, I have a lot of trust for her. And so it's really easy to submit to her, but there's times when there's people it's not as easy to submit to. And there's always fruit from it, because it brings unity. And then you get to gather around the same thing that he's revealing. And it's great. I've learned a lot from that part of our culture. Yeah.
Chris, is
Thanks
there
so
if I
much.
ask one other question here? Is that cool? I think you kind of touched on it, but it's just been an interesting theme that hasn't, you know, happened intentionally, but unintentionally. We had we got my daughter. She probably has a question too, but I can't pick out what she's saying. We had Ben and Janessa Waite. You remember Janessa is part of our Bible group too. They were speaking last week, and they're at, you know, Bethel Austin, but
right,
even Bethel Austin is different than Bethel Reading. And so they talked a bit about submitting to the house, like that they're, you know, they had to adapt, or even as they've been helping other students transition to Bethel Austin, that there's a transition, adaptation, and being, I think you mentioned it, being a son of the house. I don't know if I'm putting those words in your mouth or if that was just in my mind. And you kind of touched on that already, but I just wanted to see if you had any other extra thoughts about that, because you mentioned about breaking off entitlement, which I thought was really cool. I heard Michael Miller share kind of a cool teaching on that for end of year. About, I'll just mention a quick little analogy and then you can run with it. And if you have any other thoughts on that. But he talked about how thankfulness is like the two little hinges on a door. And if you don't have those two hinges, it's just a wall. But when we're thankful, it opens up everything. So you can speak to that or about like becoming a son of the house, but go with that wherever the Lord takes you.
Oh man, yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm so thankful. I will say I'm so extremely thankful that I have had the opportunity to submit to leadership. I think that I have, because like at Bethel, when you're a student, you can just be in like a student heart posture, you know, and like you love the house, you're receiving, it's great. I heard Banning Leapshire give this amazing message on what family really is. And it's like, I think, and sometimes the church, we really don't look like family because we're not actually coming into the environment saying, what can I do? It's like, we like sit down and we want to be fed, and we're like trying to figure out how to get even more extravagant meals. Does that make sense? And I think in family, you need to peel the potatoes. Like, you need the annoying grandma to be like, I need you to do this. And you're like, why am I doing this? It's like, oh, because you're part of family and this is what family does. Like, you're not, if you want to be a part of family, then you have to like give up your right to be entertained, if that makes sense. And so I think just with being at upper room and being under leaders and knowing like I am serving a vision. I am actually like, I don't like to just be like, oh yeah, I'm a part of upper room. It's like, no, like this is the house I'm serving. Like, this is where I'm at. Like, this is where God has planted me. And so it's going to be my joy and my privilege to serve here. And I think that, I think one thing that happens when you do that, there's a lot of alignment, I think, that comes in your life when you choose to be submitted, even to people who are different, or like, you know, upper room is not going to be Bethel. And there's, because I like was a son of Bethel and now I'm a son of upper room, like we're going to have some different thoughts or feelings, or I'm not going to agree with every single thing. But the thing is that I'm submitted to the Lord and I'm submitted to what he's spoken. And so therefore, like, that is going to be my fuel for, okay, I'm going to submit to my leaders, because biblically I know that there is honor. like when I submit to my leaders. And so I think it's just like it's crazy the amount of alignment I feel that happens that when you actually show up to being submitted. And then I think the other thing I would say is just like, I think we live in a day and age where our way is so, or our thought and our way and our truth is so elevated as the most like beautiful thing. And I think we like in our day and age, that is like it's celebrated to have a thought that is different or to be unique or to be like this, like kind of abruptly, like, I'm just this way. That's who I am. This is my way. This is my truth. That is celebrated so, so extremely in our culture. And I feel like I have just been starting to learn. Like, this isn't it. It's his way. Like, it's all about submitting to his way. Like the fruit, if you want to walk in fruit in your life, if you want to walk in power, like you need to be submitted. And I think that, that is just like huge. So, I mean, I feel like I would tell that to any BSSM alumni. If you want to see fruit in your life, find people to serve, find a vision to serve, and like actually do it. Like, don't just do it to like get something, like actually get to that heart posture of like, this is what it means to be in family. And so, yeah, that's a really good question. That's something we all should be talking about more.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. So
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks for that, Beau. Hey,
Yeah.
just in wrapping up our time with Beau, I'm just curious to hear from one or two of you. What are some key things you're taking away from what he said? So I'll give you a second to think about that. I love what you said, and I think you said it wasn't your thing, but it was that analogy or phrase that worship is agreeing with who God is. I personally haven't heard that before, but I love that.
Oh,
because
wow. Yeah.
because it's like, yes, that makes sense. And when I feel out of alignment, it's because I forgot who he is. And then when I enter into that space of worshiping, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm agreeing with who he is, and not that my circumstances are bigger than who he is. So I really appreciated that. That was one of many things that I'm taking away. But yeah, from one or two of you, what are you guys taking away from what Beau had to share?
I like the part where you said if you want to be a part of a family, you give up your rights to be entertained. I thought that was a really good one. I mean, there's so many good things you said, like just so much. I like the thankfulness like a hinge, and when there's no thankfulness like a though I don't know now. I think John, you said that. I don't know who said it, but that was, I thought that was really 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 cool. And the prioritization of worship, of ministering to the Lord being something that you make your culture. That was actually really cool too. Lots to take away from you. Thank you.
I liked when you said that even when you got to upper room and you went, wow, I'm supposed to be here. You didn't have a instantly happily ever after, which is really cool, because so often we think, this is where God wants me to be. And then we go back to the Israelites on the other side of the Jordan saying, what in the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
And that can stop us from being part of the family God led us to be. So that was a really good word.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Beau, for taking time out of your evening to be with us and just so into what God's doing here with the alumni in Canada. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you can stick around, or if you want to take off, you can. We'll just do a couple of things here in our last 10 minutes. I'm curious to hear from some of you guys as alumni, just some testimonies of what God's doing, where you're at, or in your own life. Just curious to hear from you.
I'll go.
Yeah, go for it, Lisa. And sorry, Lisa, share where you're from.
So I'm from Prince Edward County in Ontario. I was in BSSM 2016-17. So just like I've been getting a lot of prophetic words. Like I'm kind of I like sound and worship, and have been involved in that stuff a lot and have done sound for many things. But I've been getting a lot of prophetic words where the Lord has been telling me that I need to turn up the volume on my own mic, and that he's increasing a place for my voice to be increased. So God has been really leading me through a series of dreams and just really neat encounters where he's making that come to pass. And just last week, I've had a real heart for discipleship for a lot of years, and some dreams around that. It's been really heavy on my heart, and I was praying about it like literally one night, and the next day I had a lady call me out of nowhere, thinking that she was calling a counselor's office to book an appointment to see a counselor, which was totally a wrong number. I'm not a counselor. But through that, God has, I put my phone down. I said, I think you have a wrong number. Put my phone down. It said 1122. I said, okay, God, I'm paying attention. I texted her. I said, I'm not a counselor, but I would love to share Jesus with you. He's been my best counselor. You know, he's healed me from so much, and I know he would love to do the same for you. And if you want to talk, you just let me know. And she responded, and it's just, we've just been having chats back and forth, and just opening up other doors to share to different people in the workplace. So it's just amazing. And God's doing amazing things at church too. So yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Lisa. And sorry, where's Prince Edward County?
So Prince Edward, yeah, if you look at a map of the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario.
Okay.
So we are the island that's right in the top center east.
Okay.
That hangs down in Lake Ontario. Cool.
Awesome. Wow, that's awesome. That's such a cool story, and such a cool God story that someone randomly called you and then there's an opportunity. So good for you for listening to Jesus there and taking that opportunity too. Very cool. Yeah. Someone else, I'm curious, what's God doing? Do you have a testimony to share? Go for it, Kath.
Yeah, I'm doing the second year. I'm online, and it's a totally different environment than going in person, because all of us are already doing this stuff. So it's full time, but I've got my other stuff that I'm doing too. And it's so interesting when I hear people talk about the in-person experience compared to the online, but God is moving powerfully over the internet. At the Randy Clark conference this year that he always has in January, one night there were more healings online than there were in the Civic Auditorium.
Awesome. Wow.
Metal was dissolving. There's a woman in my school who is quadriplegic. She felt her big toes and she saw them move. So we're saying, okay, the rest of the body, here you go. It's really exciting to see what's going on. But for me personally, I've been doing internet ministry way back before there was even a thing called a website. So it's so exciting for me personally, because God told me in 1995 that we'd be seeing thousands of people coming to the Lord, that we'd be seeing healings. And this stuff is actually happening. I can't get out. I go to Chris's church now. I can call it Chris's church.
It's so cool. It's all of our church.
But I was going there Chris and I arrived there about the same time, but I don't get there that often because I'm disabled. And the church is in an industrial park where an awful lot of churches are because the rent is cheap, but I just can't get there. So, but it's so cool when I see what's happening, but I don't let that stop me and say, oh, poor me, I can't get there. Because when I was there on Sunday morning, honestly, that place was wild. I went, oh, I know what happened last night. There was fire tunnels going on and all of that stuff, but I didn't let the fact that I wasn't there to not feast on all the leftovers, because sometimes leftovers are more tasty than the fresh meal. And so the word of encouragement I would have for you guys is, God's got so much for you right now, like right where you're at. You can be isolated on an island, you can be in downtown Toronto, wherever, and God can move so powerfully.
I love that. I'm going to use that sometime, Kath, on a Sunday morning after a revival thing. That, hey, don't let yourself, or make sure to feast on the leftovers, because sometimes the leftovers are more tasty than the fresh meal. I love that analogy. That's so good. So I'm going to steal that, if that's okay.
Okay, you go ahead. And you don't need to give me any credit, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else, a testimony or what God's doing in your life that you'd love to share? Gina, I'm going to pick on you and what's happening in Edson.
Well, lots is happening in Edson. We, like last year in 2021, we saw 22 people get saved, and a lot are primarily getting saved off of addictions and things like that. And so we have one person who, she's actually still on house arrest, but she's going in and just like grabbing all these other people. There's new people at church every single week. We're just a small church. We meet in a shop right now. And like, I don't know, but every week there's new people. Like last night or Tuesday night, there was more people again. And so I think in January, we seen 9 people saved. And so it's just really, really exciting that God's just moving. It really feels like we've entered revival. And yeah, so that's really exciting. People are fired up for the Lord and growing, and just love seeing the people set free of the addictions. I will say, like February 22nd, Chris, it's kind of hard to explain. We don't really have the roles figured out of who's who at the church, but anyways, Chris feels in his heart that, not this Chris, a different Chris, that 22nd is going to be a really significant day. God's really given him 222, those numbers and stuff. And so like a whole bunch of speakers are planning on coming out, and an awesome worship team's coming out. And so we don't know what God's going to do, but we just have anticipation that it's going to be a really good night. And so yeah, that's a little of what's going on.
Awesome. That's so good. Thanks for sharing that, Gina. I knew you'd have like good testimony, good stuff to share. So that's really awesome. Cool. Well, thanks guys for taking time out of your what night is it? Thursday night to hang out with us and hear from Beau. And yeah, we want to keep kind of going in this vein a little bit. We'll I'm sure have more people from Bethel, but continue to draw on like what is God doing with other alumni, and particularly Canadian alumni, and where's their revival happening in Canada, because I feel like we don't often hear that. And so if there's like revival happening in your church or your area, shoot me a message, an email, or on Facebook Messenger, and let me know, because we'd love to have those people just share, especially because our country, Canada's so big, right? And I know that there's revival fires burning across the country, but also I feel like as Canadians, we want to stay humble. Like, let's not brag on what's on my thing, right? And so I've been challenged by the lead team to share more, so that's why I'm sharing more today. because it's encouraging when you hear what God's doing in different places, and I know that there's revival happening across the country, and so we want to encourage that so that people can continue to get plugged into revival cultures in those communities. So yeah, so thank you for being here tonight. And is there any other questions or anything before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. Actually, I'm a crasher. I crashed this call because I saw Beau Maddox's name. I applied to go to BSSM and never got there. And
Oh,
so,
no way.
yeah, but
That's okay.
I just still remained on the mailing list, and I thought, today's the day I'm gonna use my. So if you kick me off the
Yes.
mailing list, I won't be upset. But
I'm not
forgive me for
offended.
crashing, but but it was
Where
really awesome.
where are you from? Is it Abima? Is that how I say your name?
Ibimina, Mina.
Abimina,
You
sorry.
could say Mina.
Abimina.
Yeah, I'm from. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, and the Lord did so many amazing things. Just this past season in the region, like so many young people just getting on fire for the Lord. Like they had Bible study groups of up to like 10 to 20 people, like 6 Bible study groups and running in among university age students, and people getting healed, people getting saved, like delivered this past year. And now is in a bit of a lull, but I feel like the Lord is going to do more coming soon. But anyways, just awesome stuff. But I thought to confess before the call is over.
It's okay. You're forgiven, and we love that you're here. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Right on. Awesome.
Would it be okay if it was somebody you're talking about, the BSSM person, if it was somebody who was doing amazing things in the marketplace? Because somebody's name just dropped in my head. Yeah. So I'll contact her and get her to contact you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, Kath. Or do like an intro email or something like that. Yeah, that would be perfect. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here. And